Hey guys, coming to the second version of video. Today now we are going to see how to create a sample web application. Okay, so to create your sample web application, you have to click on your file. So here you have to click on your new project. So once you click on your project, since our Visual Studio IDE supports different languages. Here I can see Visual C Sharp, Visual Basic, F Sharp, C++, Python, JavaScript, etc. But today we are concentrating only on Visual C Sharp. If you select that one, so here I can see my ASP.NET web application. So today we are creating an sample web application. Okay. So once after clicking OK, so here I have to set the empty, and that will be in the form of a web forms, and click on OK. Oh, I have seen Visual Studio in blue color, black color and white color. To change the design format of your Visual Studio, what you have to do is you can go to your view and sorry, not view. Tools options. Here in environment, you can either select a dark theme or light theme or blue theme. Today I have selected the blue theme. In our previous video we had a dark theme. Okay, click on cancel. If you open your solution explorer, we can see there is a application which is ready. So here to create my first web page, what I have to do is I have to give right click, then right click, add, still my application is loading. Okay, now add, add new item. Okay, so you can select a web form. The web form name is, today we'll see how to create a registration page. So to create a registration page, what we need to have, we need to provide the user with a facility to enter the name. Okay, so for that, so that is a label with a text auto associated with the text box, and ID will be name, and it should run at server. Okay, so instead of name we can call it as a username. Okay, so after that I have to ask the user to enter a password, that is input type is equal to, it's a password field. The user should not, if the others should not see the text what the user is typing. So ID for that is password, and it should also run from server. Okay, and the user should be able to provide the phone number, email address. So I'll give phone and email, and we can also give confirm password also. Confirm password. Okay. So I'm changing all those things. So once after saving this one, if I make it as a start page, set a start page and Control F5. So once after pressing Control F5, it will, my Visual Studio IDE loads the web data into my web page. So here I can see the design of my web page. It is taking a little bit of time. Okay, yeah, I can see my web page, but it is not properly formatted. The formatting of our web page we'll see in our next session. Registration form. So I need to add some button to generate the event. So for that I have to write button. Okay, so its ID is btn and it should run at server, and the button text should be text value should be registered. And so on server click, it should load the data. It should load the data and it should be post that data into the database. So here we need to have two buttons. One is for submit and one is for clearing the data. Okay. So first we will wait, like let us not create any event. Like without creating any event, let us see the design of our page. My registration form design is created. Now we have to concentrate on the data to be stored into our database. So for that we need to create a database. To create a database, first we have to go to View, click on your Server Explorer, then you can see your Server Explorer. There on your data connections, right click, add a connection. So first time users, you will be getting so many of different options. Like you can create a web application with an access database file or ODBC data source with SQL Server or with SQL Server database file, Oracle database, or you can use some external databases like Sybase, Ingress, DB2, all those things. So here in our application, I'll be selecting the Microsoft SQL Server database file. Once after selecting that, you have to click on OK. So it will ask me to whether I want to add the existing database into my application or do I need to create a new database. I'll type like sample DB and I'll click on OK. So here a alert pop-ups asking like this database, okay, this database has been created. Okay, sorry, it's an already existing database, so that is the reason. Sample web DB. So once I click on OK, this alert indicates like this database does not exist and it is asking me, would you like to create it? Yes, please create it for me. Once after clicking on OK, I can see like sample web DB has been created. So there is no tables in my sample web DB. I have to right click on that and click on new query. Okay, once after clicking on new query, I can see a window. So there I have to type create a table and the table name is not register. Let us call that as user data. Okay, so my user data needs to store username, password, and I don't want to store the confirm password, phone, and I have to store phone, and I have to store the email address once after the user clicks on register button. For that, so I have to store the username. Username is varchar of 50 and it should not be null. Then password, it is of varchar, let us take it as 10. It should not be null. And I have my phone number to be stored into my database. That is like, we can make it as a varchar 10. And I want to store my email address, so it is also a varchar. I will give it for 50 and it should not be null. So my database query is created. After that one, there is a execution button. Okay, click on that. You can see like the command has been successfully completed. That means like now the table has been created. So right click on your tables and click on refresh. You can see the user data table with the 4 columns. User data table with 4 columns. Okay, so if you double click on that particular data, you can see the schema of the table. If you right click on that particular table and if you click on show table data, you can see the right click on this one, show table data. Right now I don't have any data, so it is showing null. Okay, so first we'll write coding structure for our clear. So every web page is associated with three parts. That is your C# file, that is for writing your server side coding, and the designer part, it is the code generated by your web application component, ASPX to store your HTML components. So we'll double click on a registration.cs. I will write a protected function, protected void clear data. So when an event is generated, an object, it will pass the data from front end to back end, that is object sender, and it is treated as an event. So we call it as event of arguments, which is stored in E. So when I click on clear data, it should clear all the data what we enter into in our form controls. So response dot redirect. So instead of clearing one by one field, what I'll do, I'll just refresh that page, okay, to see the clear event working. On click of clear form, on server click, I can use clear data. Now I can refresh my form. So okay, so if I rerun the application, now my registration form is there. I'll type some username, that is Vika, and password QAZ. Phone is like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 10, and my email address is okay. If I click on clear, it is cleared. Next, our task is to register the data into my database. For that, on server click, I have to save the data, okay. Protected void save data, okay. In that I have to specify the object sender to carry the events and activities into my backend, and then have to specify the event of arguments to my backend, okay. So basically, in like when we are storing the data, we have to concentrate on so many things. Like, see here in my application, I have two databases. Even though the Visual Studio contains your coding part as well as your database, how will my application will get to know like whether I have to store the data into my sample WebDB or sample DB? So there is a confusion, right? So for that we need to follow 5 steps. Step 1 is like, first identify the path for your database. So step 2 is open the connection with your database. Step 3 is create your query and process it. for process data obtained from your query. And this is an optional part because every time we don't get the data, because when you're inserting the data you can't get any data back from your database. Step 5 is like close the connection. If you're not closing the connection, then you can't process the remaining part. Okay, so these 5 steps are important for processing or adding the data into our database. So first step is identifying the path for your database. So for doing that, we need to use a namespace or library using system.data.sql client. Okay, so once you use that, it will provide you some classes called as SQL connection. SQL connection con is equal to new SQL connection, which takes string connection string. Where do we get this connection string? Okay, so now I want to attach this sample web DB into my database. For that, what I have to do, I have to right click on that and have to select the properties. Once after the selecting the properties, here there is something called as connection string. So this connection string has the value. You have to copy that connection string, Control A, Control C, and store it into a string called as connection string and close that string. But see, there is some error here. Okay, that is because slash acts as a meta character. So to avoid those things, I have to press double slash. If my path contains 100 slashes, again every time I have to specify 100 double slashes. Okay, to avoid that, what I can do is like I can make it as a verbatim string by placing @ before the start of my string. Now my connection string got established. The next step is like opening the connection with our database. So con.open. Our next step is like create my query. So I'll create, because our database doesn't understand any other format of querying. So it has a command that should be sent through SQL format itself. So here my query is like inserting. So insert into, what is my table name? That is user data. Insert into user data, and what values? Values. So here I have 4 columns. It is of type string. String is enclosed inside single quotes. So I have to pass 4 strings here. Okay, so where do I get the username? That is from name dot value. So where do I get my, see here I'm breaking the string, I'm concatenating it. Password is from pswd dot value. How to identify these IDs? So you have to go back to your designer or your source code part. See, my ID is password, pswd, name, phone, email. Yeah, so pswd value, then I have to add phone. Concatenation phone dot value, then double string, double quotes, then again double quotes plus email dot value. So my query string is created. And how to process it? We can't directly pass a string as a command to our database. We have to create a channel called as SQL command cmd is equal to new SQL command, where I have to pass what is my query and to which database. Okay, now our command is sent. So command dot execute non-query, as insert data will not return anything, and the last step is like connection dot close. I think this will make our registration form as a successful working form. This code will store the data into my user data table here. Okay. So once after the page gets loaded, we'll test for clear. Syscon password is like QSWSX. Phone number is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 10 digits, and my email address. If I click on clear, it gets cleared. So username, password, phone number 1 2 3. So we have to store the data into our application and click on. So if I click on register, see, now our data has been stored into my database, but it didn't give any alert. So for user reference, we have to give the alert. For that, we have to write response.write. It's a script, it's a JavaScript. So it's a JavaScript. There I have to create an alert. Data stored successfully. Data stored successfully. Okay, so this will give the finishing touch for my application. So username is Sunny Boyka and password, confirm password. I have set a phone number, register. How to debug your data? You have to keep a breakpoint over here to understand what data exactly your application is transmitting, and run in your, click the play button over here. So it will load the form. So once it loads the form, you enter all the data into your form, and then you can save the data. Okay, so here's So once if I click on register button, the breakpoint takes me to the source code, that is code behind file. Then F10, this will show you the connection string. To see that, I can press okay, it will store the data of. Then F10, connection is getting open. After connection open, query is created. See, in my query, this is a dynamic query which takes the input from the runtime. So if I see like insert into user data values, username, password, phone number, email address, everything is getting stored. Okay, then query got executed and the connection has been closed. So my data stored successfully gives an alert so that the user can see the data here after pressing this refresh. In Visual Studio 2010, we have that in different type. Okay, see, my data is getting stored into my database. This is how you have to execute your application like after building. Okay, in our next video we'll see like how to format our web page and how to do some validations, all those things. If you have any queries, you can send your queries to my email address, or you can call me at or you can WhatsApp me at so if you have any doubts, you can call me at 9036453696, or you can WhatsApp me at 720468791, or you can send your issues to my email address. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you feel this video is useful for you.